Drotos from KeyboardImprov.com, and welcome to day 25 of our 31-day Rock Piano for Beginners Workout Challenge. And yes, you're showing up, I'm showing up, we're doing this together. This is the community support that we need from each other. And piano can be a solitary instrument, so this is the right place to be. Jamming, this is how we learn improv, by using the stuff we know and in a way that's not front-loaded with theory and we get buried by all these theory books, right? We just, we learn how to do things, we learn how to use it like we learn our language, and then you add on to it when you're ready. And yes, at certain times you drill down and you say, I'm going to learn these voicings and everything, but that's 10%, 20%, 30%. You need 70, 80, 90% of doing it, playing and working with other musicians. So, real life situations today. And we're going to luxuriate in the scales and chord progressions that we already have played and similar chord progressions. So, you join a new band and someone says, you get to rehearsal and they play a lot of songs, but you're like, let's just jam a little bit. This really happened. I was reading an interview with the pianist, keyboardist who works with the band The Who. And he's a guy much younger than Roger Daltrey and those guys. I think he's from California, I'm not totally sure. And he gets to the, quote, audition for The Who, and he had learned all their songs and everything. And Roger Daltrey said, let's just jam. And Roger Daltrey liked jamming with him. He got the gig, right? So this is real life stuff here. I'm going to set the time for 20 minutes. You walk into a rehearsal and they say, let's just jam, Let's just play in A minor to G, 4 measures each. So you're like, okay, I know those chords, A minor, G, and the blues scale, you can play over that. And so you just wait for the drummer and to count off the groove. And here we go, and we're just gonna jam, okay? You can do anything you want. Chords in the right hand, chords in the left, just the bass line, roots, you can improvise, you could just, anything. We're just gonna jam together. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. to this old Grateful Dead concert, because there's, they tape all their concerts. Everybody taped their concerts, and you can find them now on Spotify and other things. It was from 1972, which was definitely a peak year for them. And it was like a 3-hour concert or something. And the first tune, it was an instrumental that was for at least 45 minutes. And they were just jamming on one chord, and it got a little abstract, and then they went into another groove, doing just what we're doing. And then it segued into the song with Morning Dew. And that was like, whoa! It was like the sun came out all of a sudden after all this, like with the lyric and just relax. It was just great, So Grateful Dead's a great example of probably one of the, definitely one of the preeminent jam bands in rock music. So check them out if you haven't already. You might know a lot more about the Grateful Dead even than I do. I'm not a fanatic, but I love their stuff when I hear it. So 1972, just find any live thing from 72. You can't go wrong. All right, so next tune, that was great. You had fun. The next thing, the bass player says, I've been working on this funk groove in D. It's just a D7 chord, which if it's D7, it's dominant 7, D, F sharp, A, C. You can play that, or you could still just play the triad. Major triad works over a dominant 7th chord. And the bass players, so the drummer says, let me hear it a little so I can figure out the beat. So he goes, that's it. Now, as the keyboard player, you don't have to know what notes the bass player is playing, right? We don't have to know everything everybody's playing, but you get the idea. It's just this beat. So what can I do? Okay, so I'm just going to listen to the groove for a little while. They're going to start 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Straight 8th notes. Little funky thing going. So you're like D, okay, I can use the D blues scale. Alright, and there's, okay, I got that. Let's give it a try. So you can play chords, you can just go and groove. Or you can do come up with a little riff, like a saxophone riff that repeats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Isn't that you have to learn every little 1,000 things that could happen, but you learn the elements, the blues scale, the chord, how to use it, and you use your ear. You say, okay, I got that beat, I can adapt, I can play something. Yeah, and you can do it. So this is a big step, right? So you play that for a while, and then the band stops, and the the guitarist says, oh, you know what? That sounds great, but it does go on kind of for a while. Why don't we, on cue, go to a G chord. G7 chord, so G dominant 7, G, B, D, F. You can still play a G triad, or you can put the F in there. So we're just going to do it. We're going to play the D until it seems like it wants to go to G, and we're going to say, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go to the G chord. And we're just going to stay there for 8 measures, then go back to the D whenever we want. So you hear that, you're like, okay, I can sort of follow along. Let me see what happens. So here's the D. 1, 2, 3, 4. Survive it, even if it's a beat that you haven't played before, and actually maybe have some fun too. Then what you do is you go home and you listen to some funk music like that. You listen to some James Brown, Prince, Dave Grusin, jazz keyboardist, fusion, did some stuff similar to that, and you have fun and you sort of get into that groove a little more. Then the band says, hey, you're the newcomer in the group, why don't you pick something? And you're like, I know Comfortably Numb in the key of D minor. So they're like, hey, great. So remember, it's D minor, C, B flat, G minor, D minor. And we'll do it again. D minor, you're teaching this to the band. B flat, G minor, D minor, and here we go. 2, 3. teach the band Comfortably Numb. And then the saxophone player says, you know, that reminds me of a song that I know. And you say, oh, how does that go? And he goes, well, it's a similar groove, but it starts on D minor and then goes to F major and then G major and then back to D minor for a measure each. So it's D minor, F major, G major, back to D minor. And you say, okay, I can do that because I know minimum viable piano, right? Start where you are, all the things we've been talking about. I can just play the chords and hold them, an F, right? That sounds great because it adds to the band. And also, the other people are keeping the beat too, so you don't have to do it all yourself. It's not solo piano. 1, 2, D minor, and... There we go, I forgot the chord for a second. D minor, F, G, D minor. Yeah, real life jam session. That's exactly how it works. And that's actually a clue to how to get started jamming with people. Because these days, you know, it's great. They have organized jam sessions at clubs, right? So there's a jazz jam session maybe a Thursday night here, and then blues jam session somewhere, and maybe a rock jam session somewhere. And that's wonderful. And it's very necessary. I used to play piano at open mics for jazz vocalists for years. It's great because it's a great place you can go and perform and meet other musicians and get some experience. However, it's very difficult to do it the first time or the first couple of times because they usually have very accomplished musicians up there, you know, because they can play with anybody, right? So the bass player, drummer, professionals or semi-professionals at least. And even if they're nice people, it can be very intimidating because we put so much pressure on ourselves. Okay, this is my big thing. Really got to do well, you know? And so that's best to be left for when you're really ready and have played a few times with people for a few times if possible. So what you can do is find somebody at your level who's just learning these chords, either a bass player or even just a drummer who's learning some beats, you know, younger than you, older than you, same age, whatever it is, and you learn together. And you don't try to play tunes at first. You're just like, okay, let's just jam on these couple chords. Guitarist, you know? That's how you do it. That's how I did it. That's how, I think just everybody I know did it. You start playing with your peers who are at the same level. You don't just start by going to a club. Now, if that's the only thing you have around, you can't find someone else to play with, you do the club first, right? But you take the pressure off yourself. And here's a tip for that. Don't play the first 3 times you go. Just go and hang out at the place and watch other people, meet some people, talk to the band on the breaks, say, you know, I'm just learning, you know, maybe next time I'll come down, they'll probably say, oh yeah, do it. It's gonna, you know, so you get acclimated to the place before you just sit in the first time, because that can be terrifying. I remember that. So, hey, this is great. We're developing good habits. We're developing a routine and a virtuous cycle. You show up, you play, you get better. You get better, it's easier to show up and play, and the whole thing, you just feel more and more comfortable. So I'm delighted you're doing this. I'm delighted I'm doing it too, because I'm getting some good practice in and getting inspired too. Thank you. There's some links you could click if you're interested. And thank you. Good luck with your music. See you tomorrow.